We are now live streaming. So it shouldn't be a problem unless Ayla's watching Netflix again. I can't get her to get off that.
I'm sorry, Rosa, I didn't see your text.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Oof. Bob, any more news about when you'll possibly get in? Nope. Nope. All right.
On the cancellation list for 3 months. Where you at?
Exodus chapter 10. It's working. We're going. All right, we are on chapter 10 of Exodus. Is everybody having a good week? Bob, when did you guys get back?
Friday, Saturday.
So you've had time to rest up.
Supposedly. Oh, the air conditioner went on.
Oh, did it?
Do you want me to move? No.
Don't bring it in.
So what were you doing 20 years ago?
Yeah, 23 and a half hours of labor.
23 and a half? What are you doing for your mother?
And then she gave up.
Didn't give up.
She didn't even give birth, so.
What do you mean she didn't give birth?
I had an emergency C-section.
Yeah, that's what I said. She gave up.
Somebody was stubborn.
I said if she just lasted another 20 minutes, I'd have won the pool.
Oh my gosh.
I said,
I
watch
feel
me
the
have.
love.
Well, I said, watch me. I'm going to have 24 hours of labor and then need a C-section. It's like, why did I open my mouth? Why?
Good grief.
So, everyone, as you can see, I'm back from Arizona. I did manage to lose 3 pounds. I'll give you my secret afterwards if you want.
Don't want to hear it.
Nobody wants it.
But thank you for your prayers. I especially love, David always lifts me up with uplifting videos, and so.
Someone getting sick? Is that what it was?
I don't have it here, but yeah. So, but yeah, we do that to each other. So, yeah, oh, you, yeah. So, it looks like it somehow, I've been reading it, and they said for some people, vertigo is permanent.
Oh, boy.
So, I got
sure
that
it
to
is.
look forward to. So, because I don't have that other kind that you do a weird motion thing and you can get rid of it. That's called BPDD. And that's when you get motion sickness on one side. Like if you lay on one side and then you'll get dizzy. that does not happen to me. So,
You have an inner ear problem?
what'd you say?
That's what I thought.
No, and he had the MRI to
No, I
check
had an
his
MRI
ear.
that didn't show anything. So,
Well, we already knew that.
yeah. I think they were confused when they looked at the blank screen.
himself up to it.
Oh my
These
God.
darn things, I can't get these to come on. Oh, it's working fine, thank you. Yeah, so just as far as I know, it was just vertigo. And so I was able to get some medication. Kaiser does not play well with others. And so when you're outside of a place
Oh, that's right. 'cause
that does not have Kaiser, when you're there, like the doctor phoned in the prescription to the Walgreens, which is so fast that even when I was getting sick every 10 minutes, I was able to run out of the house earlier in the week, run down to that, get my, I take Nexium, and I had ran out, get my Nexium, and race back without getting sick because it's that close. And so get there, and we have to do this. We can't send our bill to them, so you have to pay out of pocket. So it was expensive anti-nausea medicine, but it lasted long enough to get me over the problem. And then I was planning on coming back yesterday. Yesterday, I figured I'd leave normally at 10, like I normally do. And we have monsoons. They're going on a lot. And so our Chihuahua woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, shaking and panting in my ear. She really does not like thunder and lightning. And so I figured I'm up at 4, I may as well pack the van and get out of here, because she was not going to let me go back to bed. So got back early yesterday and feel a lot better being back home. So, and then today we celebrated Stevie's birthday by bowling and eating. His 2 favorite things. So,
And video games tonight.
and video games, he'll
The trifecta.
play tonight. Yeah, you got the trifecta there. So,
Where are we? Exodus what?
10. We're halfway to the 10 Commandments. I always remember Exodus 20, but that's where the 10 Commandments start, because it's indelibly inked there. All right. I'm not seeing any of the comments, if there are some. Is anybody else getting it?
And we checked and we're on.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not showing anyone on, but there we go. Maybe that'll help. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 10, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his officials, so that I may perform these signs of mine among them, that you may tell your children and grandchildren how I dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and how I performed my signs among them, and that you may know that I am the Lord." So it's one of those very confusing things. I have hardened his heart again.
Yeah, that one's really
Right? But God is able to put things in our path that cause us to react out of our personality and out of our character. And Pharaoh's character and his personality was to be against everything the Israelites stood for, and especially against their God. And so God just allowed Pharaoh to proceed down that path. Verse 3, so Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will bring, and this is Paula's favorite, locusts into your country tomorrow. They will cover the face of the ground so that it cannot be seen. They will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. They will fill your houses and those of all your officials and all the Egyptians, something neither your parents nor your ancestors have ever seen from the day they settled in this land till now. Then Moses turned and left Pharaoh. Somebody needs to mute their...
I'm getting there.
Well, I just heard it.
My old fingers are not working.
So, listen, locusts are nothing new to the Egyptians. They would have seen them every 7 years. Right? I believe that's how it works, isn't it? We've watched stuff about them, and I think it's every 7 years they come up, they raise up, and they do their thing. So they would have seen locusts. But I think at one point when I preached about this, I had a picture, and it's locusts, 10 miles of locusts in the air by 3 miles wide. So 30 miles worth of locusts, every 2 inches. That's unimaginable. I forget what they call that, but there's like a super where once every 100 and something years, this super locust thing would rise up, and all of the eggs and all of the stuff would happen all at once, and you'd get a big one. Well, this is beyond any of that. And so, aside from the ickiness, it's hard to think about stuff so thick.
There is no aside from the ickiness, it's just icky.
And these aren't little things, right? Have you guys been to Texas or New Mexico where they have the big ones? They're about this long, about that fat. When they hit you, it hurts. That's just flying into you. And so imagine millions upon millions upon millions of them. So Pharaoh's officials said to him, how long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go, so that they may worship the Lord their God. Do you not yet realize that Egypt is ruined? Then Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. Go worship the Lord your God, but tell me who will be going. So, kind of like the government. Okay, you can go ahead and gather together, but you can't worship and you can't pray out loud. Remember that? Pretty recently, right? You're not allowed to worship or pray, but you can come together. That's exactly what Pharaoh's doing. Okay, I can let them go, but I can limit how much they get out of this. Moses answered, we will go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, and with our flocks and herds, because we are to celebrate a festival to the Lord. Pharaoh said, the Lord be with you, if I let you go along with your women and children. Clearly you are bent on evil. No. Have only the men go and worship the Lord, since that's what you have been asking for. Then Moses and Aaron were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over Egypt, so that locusts swarm over the land and devour everything growing in the fields, everything left by the hail. So Moses stretched out his staff over Egypt, and the Lord made an east wind blow across the land all that day and all that night. So obviously these locusts were a long way away. By morning, the wind had brought the locusts. They invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area of the country in great numbers. Never before had there been such a plague of locusts, nor will there ever be again. They covered all the ground until it was black. They devoured all that was left after the hail, everything growing in the fields and the fruit on the trees. Nothing green remained on tree or plant in all the land of Egypt.
So this got the Goshen as well? It says all the land.
It does say all the land. So unless we see something in a little bit, Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now forgive my sin once more and pray to the Lord your God to take this deadly plague away from me. Moses then left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, and the Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind, which caught up the locusts and carried them into the Red Sea. And what's going to happen when they get to the Red Sea? All the fish will eat them, right? So they get a really good meal. Not a locust was left anywhere in Egypt, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. I think one of the most interesting things was in the movie, as you recall, they utilized his wife to harden his heart, remember? She was always saying, oh, they're going to get the best. She was ticked at Moses, so she basically irked him. Well, that's not an outrageous possibility, but something was goading Pharaoh. And so that's what was going on during this time. Verse 21, then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the sky so that darkness spreads over Egypt, darkness that can be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward the sky, and total darkness covered all Egypt for 3 days. Okay, you can't say it's an eclipse. Scientists, it was just an eclipse. Yeah, a 3-day eclipse. No, that doesn't happen. Okay? No one could see anyone else or move about for 3 days. Yet all the Israelites had light in the places where they lived. It seems like this was so oppressive they couldn't even light candles. It says a darkness that can be felt. It was so oppressive that they couldn't even light their way. Verse 24, then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, go, worship the Lord, even your women and children may go with you. Only leave your flocks and herds behind. Verse 25, but Moses said, you must allow us to have sacrifices and burnt offerings to present to the Lord our God. Our livestock too must go with us. Not a hoof is to be left behind. We have to use some of them in worship in the Lord our God, and until we get there, we will not know what we are to use to worship the Lord. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was not willing to let them go. Pharaoh said to Moses, get out of my sight. Make sure you do not appear before me again. The day you see my face, you will die. Just as you say, Moses replied, I will never appear before you again. Chapter 11. Now the Lord had said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. After that, he will let you go from here, and when he does, he will drive you out completely. Tell the people that men and women alike are to ask their neighbors for articles of silver and gold. The Lord made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and Moses himself was highly regarded in Egypt by Pharaoh's officials and by the people. Wow. Pharaoh's own people liked Moses. His own officials liked Moses. They didn't like Pharaoh because he was being stubborn. So Moses said, this is what the Lord says, about midnight, I will go throughout Egypt. Every firstborn son of Egypt will die, from the firstborn son of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, to the firstborn son of the female slave who is at her handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle as well. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there has ever been or ever will be again. But among the Israelites, not a dog will bark at any person or animal. Then you will know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. All these officials of yours will come to me, bowing down before me and saying, "Go, you and all the people who follow you. After that, I will leave." Then Moses, hot with anger, left Pharaoh. The Lord had said to Moses, "Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in Egypt." Moses and Aaron performed all these wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go out of his country. So I've read a lot of different writers, commentators, theologians, and what they basically say is that if God were to go to Hitler even now and allow him to ask for forgiveness, he would not. That because of his character, he would not.
Because of his character, Hitler would not?
Correct. And the same is true of most people that are on their way to hell. And that's the reason when you die, your decision is made up. Except possibly for those who have never heard of Jesus. And in those cases, we believe that God is righteous, and so he'll provide. Some believe that when Jesus comes back, he will go back down to the place where people have been waiting since he released them before, people that have never heard, and he will preach them again, and they will have the opportunity to accept Christ at that point. But those whose character had been developed and were evil to begin with, that would have not chosen even if they had heard, will still choose no. Because it's our life. And the things that we do and the character that we have in our lives that make our decisions. It's almost like a catch-22 thing. Our decisions make up our character, and our character makes up our decisions. Yeah, let's go to chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first month of your year." I believe that's called Rosh Hashanah. I don't think that's right. Or Yom Kippur, one of the other.
Yom Kippur is the
Day of Atonement. One of the, I always forget what it is, but okay, so this is, from then on, this is where they start their calendar, from the beginning of the Exodus. Genesis because mankind was created, and Exodus because the Israelites exited Egypt. And so they began to start their year at that point. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. If any household is too small for a whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest neighbor, having taken into account the number of people there are. You are determining the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what each person will eat. The animals you choose must be year-old males without defect, and you may take them from the sheep or the goats. Take care of them until the 14th day of the month, when all the members of the community of Israel must slaughter them at twilight. You notice it says they have to do the slaughtering. That's something we don't really pick up a lot when we read some of this stuff. The members, the people that bring the goats here, had to do the slaughtering. Why? Why would that be?
Their sacrifice.
What?
It's their sacrifice.
Yes, that's very true, and that's probably part of it. The other part is, it's our sin that causes death. right? It's our sin that requires death and blood for the remission of that sin. And so because of that, the people were taking responsibility for their actions and for their sin. And so they had to do slaughtering. Ever since I read this, I always get the picture of Shannon out there with hacking off chicken heads and killing the cow, right? We all read all of her stuff, you know, and that's what I get a picture of. And she, who was really reticent about eating meat when she was here, right? And now she's killing her own cows and pigs and chickens and all that kind of stuff. And so here, it's the picture of taking responsibility for your own sin. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. So what do you call that, the sides and top of the door frame? We call it the door frame, but what was it? Lintel. Yeah, they call that the lintel. And again, almost all buildings have one, right? And so, in fact, one of the things that was always, I remember when we went to Innsbruck. Yeah, when we went to Innsbruck, they were telling us that some of these places had been bombed, obviously, in the war. But even where some of the hotels had to be rebuilt at some point, the lintels were still there. They were the original lintels. And you could see because they're built up, right? Where were we always told to hide, right? In an earthquake? Under the door frame and the lintel, because there's reinforcement there. And so a lot of things would get destroyed, but the lintel was there, and what they would do in Innsbruck is they put like the year that this home was built. And you're always, as Americans, we go, oh yeah, and then we go over there and they have door frames that are 1,000 years older than our country. You know, and so this is where the blood is supposed to be put. People come in and out through here. And so you take some of the blood and you put it on the sides and the top of the door frames. That same night, they're to eat the meat roasted over the fire, along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. Do not eat the meat raw or boiled in water. What happens if you boil it in water?
Blood comes to the top, makes a
And then
stuff.
generally for most of us, what we would do is add some flour or something like that, and that makes a pretty thick broth type, right? But they were not supposed to eat or drink of the blood. And so you can't boil it in water, the blood would be there. And so that's the reason for basically the inside campfire, right? They were having s'mores, but before they got to the s'mores, they had to have the meat on a stick, and it drips down into the fire, right? And then the bitter herbs. And I think, ladies, didn't you guys have like the bitter herbs or something like that they're supposed to have at one point to settle for Purim? Oh, did you? You skipped the bitter herbs, really? Okay. So, yeah. So she said she's eaten them. Yeah.
Just different types of herbs that they taste kind of sour and bitter. I mean, that's a perfect description for them.
And in some cases, that's actually, it goes well with other foods, right? The bitter,
Yeah, so
just like
let's
most
say
of
it's
us
just
like
like
salt
eating
and
parsley.
sugar together, right? The bitterness, but the bitterness is there to remind them of their hardship and their slavery in Egypt. And the unleavened bread is to remind them of the sin, right? Anytime you see anything in the Bible that talks about leaven, it's talking about sin. And so they wanted bread that did not have the sin in it. Okay? God said, you use the yeast or the leaven, yeast, leaven, same thing, is sin. It's symbolic of sin. And so God required the bread without the yeast, which is what we use for communion. So, let's see. Verse 10, right? Yeah, verse 10. We just did that.
You didn't finish it?
Don't eat it raw or boiled in water, which is what I said, but roast it over a fire. With the legs, I didn't read that part. With the head, legs, and internal organs. So you had to roast even the heads, the legs, and how many eat, what do they call the stuff out of the gizzards out of the turkey?
Oh, yeah.
How many still? Okay, but but you were just going to use.
When you said innards, that just sounds.
Well,
So if they call it gizzards instead of liver?
Because you fry
it's
it.
removed.
Or you chop it up and you make gravy. With turkey, you chop it up for gravy.
So I'm sorry, I just can't. I've never been able to do that. But yes, they ate all of the stuff.
That's why it comes with the turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The liver, the heart, and the gizzard.
Then you make the dress, the gravy with all
You
of
make
that.
the gravy or the stuffing,
Mhm,
right?
yeah.
But when you see an animal whole
Oh,
being
yeah.
roasted,
Yeah.
it's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that well, I'd have to double check, but I don't think they did the intestines because
Moving right along.
that was
Well, it
dirty.
says.
Yeah, we didn't really need to go
No.
down there, did we, Bob?
Sorry. Sorry.
Well, it says you're not supposed to let anything remain until the morning, so it sounded like
Right.
you had to eat it.
Do not leave any of it till morning. If some is left till morning, you must burn it. So if they didn't eat it, they just burned it. Everything had to be burned. This is how you are to eat it. See, what happens if you leave stuff here? Again, God is smart. You know, that sounds funny, but we don't think about some of the requirements that he had for the Israelites. Not eating pig. Why don't they eat pig? What's one of the animals that your body least digests?
I don't know.
Pig.
Really?
Yeah. Your body has the toughest time digesting pig. Pigs don't sweat. So all those impurities go into their body. Where can you get a lot of diseases from?
Get the tapeworm.
From pigs. Uncooked pork.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't cook that meat enough, you get sick. And
Well,
so
we have to do that.
God understood this. So if you burn up all the excess stuff, what doesn't come around?
Flies.
Flies, worms, maggots, all these other kinds of stuff that draw in disease.
But they're gonna
And
leave
rats.
anyways.
Yes, but and rats, especially, that draws in disease. Well, they were taught very early on to completely burn up everything. You don't leave it sitting around. And then he says, this is how you're to eat it. With your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. So this, mark this down if you've got if you've got your thing and you can do it. Mark this down. This is the first fast food joint. We've got it right here. Eat it in haste. Right. With your sandals on your feet. So basically, you're ready to go. You're stopping off at McDonald's.
Never have the same meaning.
Yeah. It's the Lord's Passover, so you're going to eat it like you're ready to go. On that same night, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. Notice how that's all caps. I am Jehovah. I am who I am. Verse 13, the blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. But who could have gotten hit by it? Unbelieving Israelites. If you didn't believe any of it, maybe you don't put the stuff on
It
your...
might have been a little hard not to believe after all
You'd
the
think.
plagues, and it's dark everywhere, and
Right.
now we've got light. And, you know.
Although, if I was the Egyptians and I saw them putting stuff over the door, I'd be putting stuff over the door. This is the day you are to commemorate for the generations to come. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. It's called the Feast of Booths. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your houses. You get that meaning again? Remember, we talked about sin? On the first day, get rid of the sin.
So how come us as Christians don't celebrate Passover?
Because it's a particularly Jewish festival, because it's celebrating when they came out of Egypt. You know, while, and there are some Christians that still like to do that. I know some Christians that go and visit Messianic Jews and celebrate it with them.
Yeah, we had some Jewish friends and we did the Jewish Passover with them.
Right.
We did the Christian version at our house.
Yeah. And so there's some who do, but it just doesn't have the same meaning for us, right? We were grafted in so much later.
Right.
But it's still a huge thing. It's the same thing for Purim. There's some incredible feasts that they have had commemorating really important days in their history. And, you know, they've been around a long time. On the first day, remove the yeast from your houses. For whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the 7th must be cut off from Israel. On the first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the 7th day. Do no work at all on these days, except for prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. You know, later on, the Israelites take this a step further, and they don't do that. They prepare it earlier, and then they eat it. They would not do it, you know, prepare it on the same day. That's true on Sabbaths. They won't prepare the food on Sabbath either. They prepare it just before the Sabbath, and then they eat it on the Sabbath. All right. Verse 17, celebrate the festival of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. So here it's called the festival of the unleavened bread. It's also called the Feast of Booths. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month you are to eat bread made without yeast from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. For 7 days no yeast is to be found in your houses. And anyone, whether foreigner or native born, who eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from the community of Israel. Eat nothing made with yeast. Wherever you live, you must eat unleavened bread. And that obviously means within that time frame. So this is something that they're still supposed to do wherever they live. It doesn't matter where they live, they still have to perform this. Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, go at once and select the animals for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood of the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the doorframe. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe and will pass over that doorway. And he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance for you and your descendants when you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observing this ceremony. And when your children ask you, what does this ceremony mean to you? Then tell them it is a Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians. Then the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelites did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner, who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt. There was not a house without someone dead. During the night, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron. Up, lead my people, you and the Israelites. Go worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds, as you have said. Go and also bless me. The Egyptians urged the people to hurry and leave the country, for otherwise, they said, we will all die. So the people took their dough before the yeast was added, and carried it on their shoulders in kneading troughs, wrapped in clothing, I think is what it should be. The Israelites did as Moses instructed and asked the Egyptians for articles of silver. Okay, I know I'm your slave and all, you've asked me to go. Before I go, can I get those silver spoons that I keep cleaning? You know those earrings, gold earrings that you really love? I really am not going to need to take those. Imagine that. And the Lord had made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and they gave them what they asked for. So they plundered the Egyptians. The Israelites journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth. There were about 600,000 men. You don't get even when in the movie when they showed it, they couldn't show that kind of breadth, right? That kind of size. They just couldn't. 600,000 men. That means men that are of army age. We see that quite a lot later, basically around 21. So 600,000 21-year-old and over men. And then women and everybody under. And remember, we're told that they were quite prolific. And so they had lots of children. Besides the women and children, many other people went up with them. If you were just a regular, everyday Egyptian, would you look and go, you know what? Their God is pretty powerful. And they pretty much ruined this land. I'm sticking with them. There's a bunch of people that are going with them. And also large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. With the dough the Israelites had brought from Egypt, they baked loaves of unleavened bread. The dough was without yeast because they had been driven out of Egypt and did not have time to prepare food for themselves. What happens the moment that you add yeast?
Right?
Huh?
You're right.
It rises. It also begins to spoil much more quickly. Now, the length of time the Israelites people lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt. Because the Lord kept vigil that night to bring them out of Egypt, on this night all the Israelites are to keep vigil to honor the Lord for their generations to come. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, these are the regulations for the Passover meal. No foreigner may eat it. Any slave you have bought may eat it, and after you have circumcised him. But a temporary resident or a hired worker may not eat it. Probably why originally the early Christians didn't celebrate Passover if they were not Jewish, because it says no foreigner may eat it. Must be eaten inside the house. Take none of the meat outside the house. Do not break any of the bones. Isn't that interesting? Huh. Did you notice that the Bible specifically said that Jesus had no bones broken in his body? Remember, they came back to break his legs. That's what they did to hasten death. But he was already dead. So they put a spear in his side to make sure he was dead. But none of his bones were broken, which is why I and several of the other pastors at at one of the pastors' retreat things, had issue with during communion saying, "This is my body which has been broken for you," because broken isn't quite right. So given is a much better way of saying it. And so, yes, you see here, do not break any of the bones. The whole community of Israel must celebrate it. A foreigner residing among you who wants to celebrate the Lord's Passover must have all the males in his household circumcised. Then he will take part like one born in the land. No uncircumcised male may eat it. The same law applies both to the native born and to the foreigner residing among you. All the Israelites did just what the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, and on that very day the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt by their divisions. What are their divisions? Huh?
The tribes.
Tribes, that's right. The 12 tribes, so they're divided up by the 12 tribes. That was one of the few interesting things that I found historically is, and it was quick in the Ten Commandments movie, where Joshua would say, tribe of Judah, you're over here, so-and-so, over here. And he was putting, and it shows us later that they put the specific tribes in specific places when they bunked down for the evening, hunkered down for the night. And so there's a lot of stuff that we miss when we don't really look carefully at what kind of event this really was. All right, we will stop there for the evening, for the week. Do we have any prayer requests?
How's Annette?
Okay, I will probably go see her Friday. I've got to get an update. The last I heard, they were waiting on Aetna to allow them to take her to Casa Colina.
Insurance?
Yes.
And where is this?
Casa Colina, I was actually the one that told them about it. It's in Pomona. Paula's mom was there, and it was a very, very good facility. And
She is there.
who is?
I think she is there because she called Cindy Alvin.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so if so, I'll probably be going to see her either tomorrow or Friday. And so, but yes, they do some they're a heavy duty physical therapy kind of place. So you don't rest on your laurels when you get there. They really work them out. But it's a beautiful place and very clean, very nice. And so,
Will you go see Joyce while you're out and about doing those things, doing that?
I will ask. She told me no before. So.
Oh. Was that during the height of COVID or?
No.
We talked to her yesterday, and she's doing so-so, but, was she physical therapy? She was doing some, right?
Joyce is doing physical therapy?
Took a fall.
Or she, yeah, you knew she fell.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, she says she's in just a lot of pain.
Okay.
Are they coming to her for the therapy?
I would think so.
I need to what?
I think so.
Yes, so Joyce had taken a fall, repeating for the camera. So,
Is
and
Sandy
so
still there?
she's doing physical therapy.
Her daughter? You know?
No. Miriam's taken over for
Bertha.
Bertha.
Okay.
Joyce sounded good. I talked to her a little bit on the phone too. She sounded, she's always sounds same.
She does.
Mm-hmm, yes.
She doesn't let you on.
Yeah, she doesn't. If you call, I'm doing fine.
Yeah. She never lets you know that she's low in spirit or anything. She's the same.
Because I was there just like 2 days before we found out she fell. I'd been over there.
So your fault.
No. When I was over there, she walked me to the door without her walker.
Oh yeah, she was walking all
Yeah,
over the
she
place.
doesn't want to use her walker.
Yeah, without it when I was there.
So I hope you're hearing this, Joyce.
Yeah, we're talking about you.
Yeah.
How's Danny?
Well, as far as I know, he's resting. So, he'll see how he feels tomorrow, whether or not he feels okay to go to work.
So immediately I said, because remember I just came back from there, so I said, I wonder if it's the heat. And, I'm sure that the warehouse is somewhat cooled. They couldn't do it without it.
Yeah.
But the doors are always open. You're moving around and it's 109. Maybe more than that there. It's the one right in Buckeye, right?
Yeah, on the edge.
On the edge of Avondale.
Yeah.
Right.
Avondale, yeah.
Yeah. So we see it all the time and we always go by and go, I say, Danny works there.
Every time.
Every time. So,
Did they do an IV to get him?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
okay.
did, to rehydrate.
Right,
him,
rehydrate.
And they did do a CAT scan to make sure there was nothing going on, there.
so he's like me, nothing was going on.
Nothing, yeah, they didn't find anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just keep praying for them.
Okay, great.
Donna asked for prayer, she is going to the attorney tomorrow. So, she's still.
She didn't say.
No, she's still, very much struggling.
Yeah. So Donna needs continued prayer for all the stuff that she's been going through. Anyone else?
Amy and Anita have a friend that she have her son, his name is Christopher, he's 13 years old. But his situation is more critical there. So he's getting worse than before.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Somebody tell me.
We had prayed for him before, the young boy.
13-year-old boy? Yes.
Christopher, was, yes, having serious issues.
He's
Remember,
worse.
he was the one in the hospital with nothing.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
And, Aaron Wilson, Cindy Wilson.
Oh, yes.
Cindy Wilson's son had more surgery. Yeah. Somebody else?
My neighbor Roger.
My neighbor Roger. I know Roger. I remember. He's the guy that, right? Yeah, I know. You've talked about him before. Yeah.
Well, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
The other guy, I don't know what.
Well, and Carol Conway yesterday asked for an unspoken.
Okay.
In our ladies,
In your latest thing.
so.
Okay. And while I was sick, Amy texts me, checking on me. Yeah. So it's good to see. Wonder where Cindy Algren is tonight. That's unfortunate because that means that somebody else is going to have to pray. Oh, wait. Oh.
You have to walk around there, John, it will fall.
Oh, stop. I turned off AI. Okay.
John?
Okay, go ahead.
I could see myself on this.
Okay, go ahead.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the opportunity to be able to gather together for fellowship and to dive into your word, sometimes in a little bit more detail than we want to know about. But we do thank you, Lord, for Danny's good news that he was hydrated. We just ask that you would be with him as he continues to recover and drink plenty of fluid. And when he does go back to work, that he's more careful in this heat, as he's not used to working into that kind of heat in Arizona. And we just ask that you be with him and continue to heal him. We ask that you be with our great gals, Annette and Joyce, as they both recover, do physical therapy for the falls that they've had, for broken bones. And we just ask that you would let them know that you are with them and that you will always be with them, and your guiding hand is upon their health care. We ask that you be with our sister Donna as she struggles struggling with some difficult situations and decisions that she has to make, and we just ask that you would be with her and guide her and show her the way that you would have her to go. Please be with Cindy Wilson's son, as he's had some emergency surgeries these last couple of days, and we just ask that you would continue to provide healing and support for the whole family there. Please lift up Roger Cherie's neighbor. You know the situation there and what's going on, and we just ask that you would be with him. And we do the same for our sweet sister Carol. She has an unspoken, and we just ask that you would also give her your comfort and your guidance in whatever it is that she is going through. And we have little Christopher, who's only 13, and we've prayed for him so many times, Lord, and we just ask that you would intervene in this situation, but if not, that you would help us all to grow and come closer to you in it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And also, Dennis and I saw Brad and Connie last,
Yeah, on
Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Friday